going to start by talking about Israel. Israel is now Gazifying Lebanon and doing the exact same technique that they call, I guess it's called the genocide technique. It's the forbidden technique. It's called bombing everything in sight and then claiming that it's because you are doing it because you've decided that these guys are your enemies. And it's a wonderful technique only when you're Israel, because like any other country that does this, everyone will be like, excuse me, what the fuck are you talking about? But when Israel does it, America goes, well, this is not ethnic cleansing. It's something different. Okay. It's the forbidden jutsu that Israel applies in this situation. And they are using the identical propaganda. Like it is copy fucking paste, dude. Look at this. Look. Official Israeli claimed that nearly every building in southern Lebanon conceals several missiles. Pre-excuses massive destruction of civilian infrastructure, attempts to sow division between Hezbollah and popular base. Israel is now deploying the same war propaganda campaign it did in Gaza to justify their crimes. Starting with Lebanon doesn't exist, every Lebanese is Hezbollah, to schools and hospitals portrayed as military bases. Yeah. So yeah, they are doing domain expansion and forbidden jutsu. Okay, when they pull that together, it's a very deadly combination. Obviously, they've been doing this forbidden technique called genocide on Gaza, but now they've expanded it into Lebanon, and it's so crazy because like the technique is always the same. It's always the same. They literally just are like, we have no other option. We just have to kill every single fucking person. We have to kill as many people as possible. Sorry, we have to destroy, we have to reduce entire city blocks to rubble. What can you do? And it's crazy because like American media does go along with it. Israel also has plans for northern Gaza. One of the plans that Israel has had for northern Gaza, also called ethnic displacement, which for those of you who are uninitiated, maybe you don't know this, is another term for genocide, okay? Mass displacement of an entire population from their ancestral homelands is genocide. That's what it's called, okay? It's ethnic displacement, mass ethnic displacement. And yet when Israel does it, the Associated Press is like, Israel wants to mobilize the Gazan population away from Gaza City with no return date. And it's like, yeah, dude, you used a lot of fucking words to say genocide, okay? You used so many words to just say exactly what we know, which is genocide. It is mass displacement of people. That's what you're doing, okay? Israel Minister of Diaspora also doing the Lebanon is not even a real country, actually, arguments. Like, this is identical. I feel like we're back in like October 10, okay? We're doing October 10 shit. We're doing October 10 shit again, but this time for Lebanon, which is a whole ass separate sovereign nation. It's not even a fucking nation that Israel currently is a belligerent occupier of. They also have obviously called this famously escalation through de-escalation, which is like literally fucking George Orwell shit. Okay. I know all these dummies love 1984 or claim that they've read 1984. Okay. But this is straight up like peace through strength, de-escalation by doing escalation. All of this stuff is, yeah, war is peace. It's just double speak. It's completely ridiculous. It's like comical the way that they are pulling this shit off, but it doesn't even matter. Okay? Oh shit. It does not even fucking matter. So yeah. It is obviously, if you are watching, if you have been a watcher, if you have been a follower, if you have seen what Israel has done since October 7 in Gaza and in the West Bank, you know that they are a one-trick pony. They are doing the exact same fucking shit. Okay? And they're greatly escalating in Gaza as well. And they're also obviously greatly escalating into Lebanon, which broadens the conflict. And yet, for some weird reason, our politicians are asleep at the wheel. And they're not necessarily asleep at the wheel. They just are, they're not oblivious. They know what the fuck Israel's doing. And they're basically giving Israel assurances by, you know, allowing them to continue doing this without like offering them, without taking away any of their weapons contracts, basically. That's literally what's going on. America is totally complicit in this. And I think the media also plays a role in the whitewashing of Israel's genocide here. Jeremy Scales says, media should stop saying Israel is telling people in southern Lebanon to evacuate. Israel is engaged in psychological warfare against civilians as a part of his broader military attacks. There is an expulsion order under threat. It is the same tactic used in Gaza. So, wonderful stuff. More active, even they are sending more U.S. troops there. Yeah, the U.S. is sending an unspecified number of more soldiers on top of the 40,000 already in the region. Great stuff overall. It's not even complicity. They are allies. They are partners in this. Our government is literally allowing Israel to do this and giving Israel all the support it needs to do this, and also saying, we will defend you if there are any foreseeable consequences off of this. And there will be consequences for this. Obviously, you cannot just keep blowing people up and expect them not to retaliate. And it's if you were ever wondering, like, in an alternative universe, what would happen if like America didn't fight the Nazis, but instead like joined the side of the Nazis? Well, now you know. Okay. And it's additionally crazy because like now we can see it happening in real time. Back in the day, the Red Cross also very famously went into the camps and did propaganda for the Nazi government, right? To make it seem as though these were not death camps. There's a very famous instance of this. People that were sent to these death camps did not know that they were being sent to death camps. They thought that these were concentration camps. But because there wasn't real-time evidence as to what was actually going on, with the exception of like the people that were living in the villages, and even then that is disputed, but people fucking knew what was going on, obviously, right? But like with the exception of people that were like directly there in the surrounding areas, like information could be kept quiet. You can't really do that in the modern day and age. And yet people know, and people now can also basically operate like they are a German villager, a German townsfolk that is living right next to a fucking concentration camp. They can see it and they have full knowledge over what's going on, and they can still turn a blind eye to it. Okay? This is why Zone of Interest was fantastic in basically showcasing not just like the banality of evil or whatever, but like how people can act out their daily lives when unimaginable atrocities are occurring. So, you know, wonderful stuff happening. The pure depravity, the inhumanity in full display. And yeah, if you ever wondered like how this could happen, if you ever wondered how people could be complicit in the face of such glaringly obvious displays of inhumanity, okay, in the most obvious case of an ethnic cleansing campaign being conducted in front of your eyes, if you were ever wondering like how the fucking random German baker or the random German accountant was you know, smelling the fucking ashes and having the ashes fall on them next to a goddamn concentration camp and still maintain their daily activities and still live their fucking lives as though, you know, nothing is different. And in certain instances, maybe even taking joy out of it, like these tours that were offered in Israel, boat tours in Israel off the coast of Gaza to watch it get bombed and see the place they plan to build new settlements, ? Says Suppressed News. I'm not entirely certain on the accuracy of the Twitter account, but this is TRT World, the Turkish national broadcaster. Here it is.
Gaza is relentlessly being erased. They took a boat with the first families, ready to occupy the land of those who are being killed and starved to death.
most empathetic Israelis, dog, I need you to understand something here, okay? This already happened in previous incursions. These special operations called mowing the lawn by the Israeli government, okay? Death camp tourism is an actual thing that happens in Israel. I've talked about the depravity of certain far-right elements, ultra-nationalist elements within Israeli society when I talked about Siderot cinema, okay? On the hilltops of Siderot, people would put couches up and watch Gaza explode in flame, okay? This is not a new thing that is happening. Yes, it is called Siderot cinema. These were people in Israeli society that took great pleasure in watching Gaza burn, okay? So it is not shocking to me. It is not shocking to me that they have upgraded their tourism in this to this degree. Here's the context on this. This isn't actually tourism, but it's still really bad. Oh, it's this fucking psycho. It's this rabid freak, dude. She's everywhere. God damn it. I feel like people misunderstand this as being a tourist attraction instead of a single sale of political activists calling the colonized Gaza that happened 9 months ago. Yeah, I mean, good luck explaining this. I know that these are the furthest right-wing elements, okay? I know. These are the hyper right-wing psychopaths that Israeli government has never really turned a blind eye to and has either secretly propped up and given a shit ton of funding to or support and military help to, who they have now actively brought into their governing coalition. Okay? People do not understand, like, you want to make this because every single time we have this conversation, like, anti-Semitism is a subject matter here, is like sometimes cynical, oftentimes in a cynical mechanism to deflect away from like the true issue at the heart of Israeli society. And what I try to, I guess, explain to you, if you are living in the Western world, right, is we are experiencing a similar thing in the United States of America. We are experiencing a similar thing with the AfD in Germany, a similar thing with Le Pen's rise to power in France, a similar thing with the Reform Party and Nigel Farage in the UK. Okay? More ultra-nationalist, fascist right-wing elements become a part of the governing coalition actively, okay? The more they do this, the more they're normalized, the more the rest of society basically follows along. And Maloney in Italy as well. So that is precisely what is happening here, and that is precisely what has happened in Israeli society over the course of the past 30 years, okay? And there is a air of complacency in terms of like the rest of the Israeli society when they see this stuff, and they hate them, right? They hate them for sometimes aesthetic reasons. They sometimes hate them because it makes the rest of Israeli society look bad. But ultimately, if you don't stop this dead in its fucking tracks, you ultimately become either completely complicit or a defender of this kind of action. Okay? That's it.
להתקרב ככל האפשר לעזה, לראות את עזה כולה ולהבין שמעתה והלאה עזה תהיה כולה יהודית.
You said the U.S. media stopped showing war carnage on TV because it made it too real for Americans, which I get, but Israelis seem to get even more bloodthirsty at the sight of incinerated Gazan babies. No, what are you talking about? The military censor literally stops any kind of like showcasing of like what the Israeli occupying force has done in Gaza. No, they don't. They show, in a weird way, U.S. media shows more of the death and devastation in Gaza than the Israeli media does, but the Israeli media actually actively covers the wrongdoings of like the Israeli military because their obvious purpose is to still inform their own public, and they don't need to do propaganda for an uninitiated audience like all of the major Western outlets have to do. They don't actually show the actual death. Israeli chatters will confirm this. It's actually one of the things that they routinely talk about in this chat is the fact that outside of Al Jazeera, there are never any fucking Israeli outlets that like actually show the devastation. There's obviously 972 and Local Call, but like they're more focused on all of the investigative reporting that they do, and those are like edge cases, right? Those are like the tippy top of like the anti-Zionist journalism that's happening in Israel, and those guys are like, they're nothing in comparison to like the circulation that you have for every other Israeli newspaper. And that is the unfortunate reality. Israeli Twitter account is tweeting in English, telling people to evacuate. Yeah. Great stuff. Please get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes. Great stuff, man. Thank you for saying this in English, by the way. I wonder why they're saying this in English. The anti-Semitic blowback from this is going to be catastrophic and absolutely earned from the Zionist Jewish chatter, just so everyone knows. Yeah, I mean, it's already happening, and it's gonna greatly escalate as well. It's gonna get significantly worse. But yeah, there aren't a lot of Israeli outlets that show the devastation and the death in Gaza, and that is by design, for the record, just so you understand. Because that is the one aspect that they don't want to show, because one thing you have to understand, and Israel is very similar to Turkey in this regard, both ultra-nationalist countries in different ways. I'm not comparing what like Turkey has done. I mean, Turkey, obviously the Ottoman Empire did the Armenian genocide, but like beyond that, in terms of like contemporary Turkish society, we still have a lot of pride in our military. Like we have a lot of reverence for it. It's like you can't disrespect the flag. You can't do any of that because it's a common trait in ultra-nationalist countries. And Israel, no matter what your attitude is inside of Israel, no matter what your attitude is, this is something that Americans will not understand, okay? Because like we can say whatever the fuck we want about the military. We can do whatever the fuck we want to our flag here in the United States of America. But in Israel, there is like, no matter what kind of activist you are, there is a tremendous amount of reverence and respect for the Israeli military. The Israeli military, just like the Turkish military, is supposed to be a secular institution that is a protectorate of the democracy. And I say democracy in air quotes, okay? A democracy for those who are deserving of democracy, the superior group in Israeli society. So for that reason, it's like when you show the negative consequences of the Israeli military behaving in exactly what a fucking military would do, in the normal ways in which the military destroys civilian infrastructure, they don't show that stuff in order to maintain this presence and in order to maintain this like idea that the IDF is usually trying desperately to do the right thing. Okay, so internally in Israeli society, you rarely ever see the death and destruction inside of Gaza. That kind of stuff is kept to like the edge groups, the Telegram channels where like people fucking jerk off to the dead children, where they go crazy over it. But that's not the broader Israeli society's outlook in general. It's important to understand this, because I do think that if they were to regularly showcase the death and destruction to like normal Israeli people, there probably would be a lot more people who are fucking anti-war in terms of like what people are doing there. They'd be like, this is horrifying. That's why they are hermetically sealed from Palestinian communities. Yes. One of the greatest threats. There's two really big threats to the future of Israel, okay? There's two phenomenal threats to the future of Israel being like a Jewish ethno-state, okay? One is Israeli Jews recognizing that Israel maybe isn't the safest place for Jews in general, or for anybody for that matter. and fucking leaving Israel and going back to Europe or going back to the United States of America. Okay? That is a massive threat for the ethno-state project, right? You all of a sudden ruin everything. If people voluntarily fucking leave, and it's happening already, then that's a major problem. That is a major problem, right? So that's number one. And number two is obviously like Israeli people, like the Jewish demographic of the Israeli population, recognizing the humanity of Palestinians would be devastating to the apartheid project, like absolutely devastating. And in every circumstance, they have to keep like normal Israeli people that would be a part of like standing together or whatever, away from like coming to a recognition that Palestinians are fucking human beings. And Israel's enemies are actually like real human beings with like real motivations for emancipation and not just like bloodthirsty anti-Semites. Okay? And the apartheid only ends when it gets too expensive, right? Yes, if you incur social and political penalties for maintaining an apartheid and you become a social pariah on the global stage, which Israel is bouldering towards and has become, especially in the Western world, in Western Europe especially, then that becomes a massive problem. It becomes too consequential. You live in Tata land, Hasan? You mean La La land? Hundaman, oh, the poor things. They just engage in death and carnage because they're brainwashed to be a colonial, genocidal cunts. Wait, what? What are you saying, brother? I'm talking about like how normal human beings are. What do you think? Like there's a genetic predisposition for people born in Israel to fucking hate Palestinians? No, it's all social conditioning. These are devastating factors that churn out genocide support, which is completely unacceptable. But when I'm actually describing the way in which this cycle of misinformation and dehumanization is fostered and grows in Israeli society, you arrive at I'm trying to help people understand, like, you know, these people that we're watching, okay, these fucking rabid freaks are now becoming more prominent in Israeli society. They are over the course of like especially the past 30 years, as Israel has escalated its settlements, as Israel has escalated its violence, and it's in a stranglehold over the Palestinian population, these kinds of attitudes become more commonplace. And it's actually reflected in the youth as well. That's the most dangerous aspect of this, because the Haredi population is very young. They are the ones who are actually fucking and having a lot of children. And lo and behold, like Israeli society is going to become less and less educated as a direct consequence of this, and more rabid in terms of their ultra-nationalist sentiment. Like the Israeli future is a nuclear state comprised of the most inbred, the most uneducated, the most religious zealots that you have ever fucking seen. Okay? That is precisely what they are headed towards, and that's already happening. And the fact that like no one is looking at this and going, well, you have to fucking put an end to this. You have to stop this. It's more than not showing the death. They show the opposite. This happens in Gaza too, but I shit you not. Not a day or two after the pager sabotage, one or more of our media channels uploaded a mini doc with a title like "The Lebanese Who Are in Support of Israel's Operation in Lebanon." Yeah. Darzex is a Israeli chatter as well. So this is something that you see. They are manufacturing consent in an entirely different way. What about the various resistance groups in terms of the Israeli apartheid state lasting? Don't those also play a role? Of course they play a role. It is all about making apartheid unsustainable, okay? And that is the role that the resistance groups play. Also, I'm going to run the 3-minute ad break right now. I'm not going to do a segue today, or at least during the duration of this coverage, because some pretty serious stuff. I know I'm late, 17 minutes in, but the 3-minute ad break is upon us. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do that for $4.20 for the month of September, or for free with Twitch Prime. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Yes, making the occupation as costly as possible. Yeah, that is the ultimate goal. And they fucking turn around and move their troops in when they feel a sense of safety and security. Okay, here's Daniel Hagari.
The IDF makes vast efforts not to hit civilians and make every effort to mitigate harm to civilians during operational activity. Regarding the high number of casualties, everyone is a tragedy in Lebanon. Among those killed were a large number of Hezbollah terrorists who were next to the weapons that we targeted. Israel is facing threats on all fronts and continuing to act against them in defense for the people of Israel. We have many other missions to carry out. We have to bring back home all our hostages that are held in brutal conditions by Hamas. We have to bring them back home in all means. We have to continue dismantling Hamas capabilities in Gaza. And we have to bring security to every Israeli citizen in the north and in the south. Questions, please.
2 questions from AP. The first, Israel has been battling Hamas for nearly a year, and it still hasn't realized all of its goals in Gaza. Are we looking at the possibility of months of fighting in Lebanon as well? Second question is the army prepared for a ground invasion now? And if the order comes, how quickly could ground forces move in?
Israel has been battling Hamas, this is true, for a year. Yeah, Hamas did the 7th of October, a horrible massacre. It's almost a year. We have to fight and dismantle Hamas and enduring defeat to Hamas. There is no other way. To make sure there is security in our borders and to bring back home all our hostages in all means. In the same time, the world should remember, on the 8th of October, Hezbollah started a war. Israel did not attack Lebanon, did not attack Hezbollah. It's Hezbollah on the 8th of October started firing on Israeli civilians in the northern border, and he's been doing this for over 11 months with 9,000 rockets, and 60,000 Israelis have left their homes. We have to act to stop the threat of Hezbollah. Hezbollah was planning to do a larger scale of massacre than the 7th of October in the northern Israel. And we will have to make...
we just always... It's so interesting that it's Israel always doing a preemptive first strike. They always, luckily, there's always an imminent threat. It's, another Holocaust right around the corner. That's why they have to do a genocide beforehand.
In full readiness, and we will do whatever is necessary to bring back home all our citizens to the northern border safely.
Question from CNN. The cabinet has declared a special situation nationwide. Rockets have been fired at Haifa today and near Tel Aviv. You've killed hundreds in Lebanon. Is Israel prepared for a third Lebanon war?
The special situation that was declared by the government allows us to do different kind of things in the home fronts. We still haven't changed the policy yet. And we are looking and observing the situation continuously all along the day, and we will do that also tomorrow. We have to make sure that we provide safety for our citizens, and we will do that also in attack and in defense as well. And then we have to say that the resilience of Israelis is what gives us a lot of power in the IDF to keep on doing attack and defense and doing all this war for many, many months. The resilience of the Israelis is strong, and we are ready to face whatever it needs for the future. And regarding the condition of the third Lebanon war, we are not looking for wars. We are looking to take down...
Yeah, they're not looking for wars. It's just they keep finding it. I don't
7th of October threat in the northern border. It have to be a safe border where Hezbollah is pushed back from the border and there are no threats like missiles, rockets, UAV threatening our communities, our citizens. This is our mission, and we will do whatever is necessary to do to achieve this mission. We hope to do it as shortly as we can.
ABC News. Is what we've seen today the beginning of an all-out war in Lebanon? How do you think the coming days will look like for the IDF and for civilians of Israel and Lebanon?
We've been facing in the north for over 11 months for our citizens. Every day looks with rockets on their heads going to bomb shelters. Those are citizens that for over 11 months.
Still believe this shit? I mean, dude, I'm sure you fucking talk to people that are dumb enough to still think that, like, you know, I'm sure there are people who are still dumb enough to believe this dumb shit. I mean, look at this. Look. I just saw this. Look. Houthis raided a girls' school in Yemen. They are expelling girls from school. HasanAbi interviews viral hot Yemeni TikTok pirate. 13K likes. Right? Like, people still are talking about this sort of shit. Okay? What this person is posting about is completely unacceptable. Okay? What, like, the Houthis are doing, if this is what's happening. Okay? But if you have this level of smoke for the Yemeni population, okay? If you have this level of smoke for the Yemeni population and you see the humanity, it's also a lie. That's not what happened. I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter, okay? Because if you see the humanity of Arabs, if you see the humanity of Yemeni people, only when you can, like, make a counter argument that is an effort to justify their fucking endless bombing, you do not care about them. Because you're doing this in the midst of, like, Israel blowing up 357 people in fucking Lebanon. You know what I mean? You just don't give a shit. You don't give a fuck about these people. You only want to talk about it in an effort to, like, justify and defend American imperialism in the region. To be like, look, they're barbaric. They're barbaric monsters. That's it. It's the same principle behind how the media immediately launched an offensive campaign against Joe Biden when he pulled out of Afghanistan to be like, oh, well, look at the green zone. Look at how beautiful the Afghan women and their living conditions were in Afghanistan until the Taliban took over. And it's like, I'm not fucking pro-Taliban. I don't want the Taliban to govern Afghanistan, okay? But America's actions in Afghanistan are directly responsible for the Taliban behaving in the way that they're behaving, and also are directly responsible for them being the prominent governing party in Afghanistan. Okay? It's ridiculous. And also, it's additionally ridiculous when these guys look at, like, obviously awful things happening around the world, and then their goal is to be like, oh, how do I make this about some fucking Twitch streamer, dude? You're a fucking delusional weirdo, okay? You are just a weird guy. It doesn't make any sense. Like, there's never a moment where I look at a situation, an ongoing atrocity that I'm covering, and go, how can I make this about my perceived enemies? You know what I mean? Or even worse, because, like, that guy randomly just hates me because some fucking YouTuber he likes hates me. You know what I mean? Engagement farming of this degree in the midst of an ongoing fucking genocide is psychotic. And I think it's probably because there's a level of Islamophobia attached to it. And that's another way to, like, repeat these Islamophobic sentiments. It gives them permission to behave like this. That's it. Every time I bring up the genocide that is happening to my dad, he immediately goes to defeating Hamas. How can I debate him when he's so focused on Hamas and Israel defending itself? I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know, like, I don't know why you're debating your dad. Just try to explain to them the humanity of the people that live there that are just, like, blowing up and losing their lives. And that could help. It blows my mind how obvious the point that you're making is real, and still these people try to justify their bullshit and hatred. What a shitty society we have. It is impossible to overcome that level of social conditioning. This is post-war on terror, post-9/11 mania running rampant through American society once again. It's a very comfortable skin that a lot of people immediately snuck back into. That's all it is, okay? That's all it is. You do not care about children being blown to bits at all when America's doing it or when Israel is doing it. You only care about it as a talking point. You only care about it as a talking point if it's like your entire life and you live in fucking bumfuck nowhere in, Iowa, Ohio, wherever the fuck, right? Of course you're going to, be like, yeah, the media is telling me that these are Hezbollah scary terrorist guys, and I guess they deserve to be blown to fucking bits because our most moral military ally, Israel, the most moral democracy, the only democracy in the world, is blowing them up, and they wouldn't do anything wrong.
There are growing fears of an all-out war in the Middle East. The death toll is climbing in Lebanon as Israel and Hezbollah exchange attacks across Israel's northern border. The latest attacks are prompting concerns of increased...
There's a sub that popped up overnight, which is a clone of Interesting as Fuck, mind-blowing things we should have posted about Muslims in Yemen. And there was like 1,500 comments only about you. It got deleted, but it was obviously supposed to be an anti-Islam thing. But like bots fucked up and they were just talking about how you are anti-Semitic. They were talking about you like you were mentioned in the post, but you weren't. Bot glitch. Oh, I would love to see that. If you archived it or snapped some posts about it. That's hilarious. No, it's like, it makes sense. It makes sense to bot something like that. Reddit is botted into oblivion. It's like very obviously a thing that happens. It's a really good way to like massage discourse. If you don't want to fucking attack the problem head on, a good way that you can do that is by bringing down people who speak on these matters. You know what I mean? It's not just Hasan bad equals likes. What you fail to understand is in many instances, I always say, oh, dude, when people come to my chat and go, hypocritical socialist, what do I always say? I say, okay, I'm a capitalist. What changed? Okay, now listen to my argument. Now try to take up my argument. If you have an issue with the things that I'm saying, the things that I'm presenting, okay, beyond what you perceive my opinions to be, okay, if you can now tackle the fucking argument, that would be great. And they have no counter to that. Why? Because there is no real purpose in doing the hypocrisy shit, right? There is no real purpose behind the hypocrisy baiting other than just simply stating, don't listen to this guy. He is bad. Don't listen to this guy. He's a bad guy. That's it. And if you can get enough people to not listen and not be charitable, okay, then it's great. You didn't have to engage with the argument. You just shut off a bunch of people from ever actually analyzing the argument. It's a successful way to propagandize. And it's almost always directly a consequence of the things I speak to and not necessarily what I do. Okay, that's it.
Violence spreading across the region. The Israeli military claims to have hit more than 300 Hezbollah targets. Officials say the group has hidden weapons in residential buildings. Lebanese health officials say upwards of 270 people were killed.
Yeah.
And more than
Israeli officials say they're hiding weapons in buildings. Lebanese officials say a lot of civilians died.
1,000 injured in the strikes. It marks the single deadliest day of fighting in nearly 20 years. BBC News Middle East correspondent Lina Sinjab is in Beirut, Lebanon. She joins us for this. Thanks for being here. What is the situation in Beirut right now?
Well, it's a very tense situation. As you mentioned, today was the deadliest in the south. More than 300, locations were targeted. And just before I come on air, there was a targeted attack here in Beirut, in Dahye, in south of Beirut, in Hezbollah stronghold. The Israeli, officials are saying that they've targeted a Hezbollah figure, but we still don't know about the damage that this attack has caused to civilians.
My NBC feature dropped as well, the Stay Tuned one. Behind the scene with Twitch streamer HasanAbi. We'll look at that later as well. There's a lot of this kind of stuff happening left and right. Kamala supports this. Fuck yeah, she does. Everybody supports this. This is American foreign policy, baby. It's much harder to find. It's much harder to find someone who doesn't support this. Okay.
Because these areas are condensed with civilian population. And exactly that's what happened today in the morning.
Good evening from Lebanon. I'm still alive. We moved from the south up to Beirut. They even bombed the main road that connects the south with Beirut. Stay safe, chatters.
Airstrikes that happened in the south, the deadliest since this war started, that it targeted towns and cities and villages where it's condensed with civilians. Women and children were killed, and thousands of people are on the flee again. Some of them have fled for the third time since this war started and have nowhere to go. There are people who are fleeing to other cities, and some are arriving in Beirut. This whole country is now on alert and on emergency, fearing for more escalation to come.
Hezbollah has vowed to continue launching rockets at Israel until a ceasefire is reached. Is there any other statements that we're getting from Hezbollah on whether they are going to ratchet up their retaliation?
Well, this is the statement that has been consistent by Hezbollah since the war started in Gaza, since last year. And they've been launching rockets from southern Lebanon on Israel as well. They have done this in a way that is calculated so that they, continue with their statement in support of the Palestinians, but also not to cause huge damage that will reach them to a point where, the whole country could be dragged into a full-fledged war. But that's different since last week, since the attacks, the pager detonation that left at least 3,000 people injured and, dozens killed, and followed by a bombing in Dahi as well, killing top leaders of Hezbollah. And just now as well, today is the deadliest today, and another airstrike in Dahi. So all of this would leave Hezbollah under pressure to retaliate, to respond.
Do you think we'll see Israeli boots on Lebanese soil, or will it not come to that? No, it will, I think. I think it will come to that. These kinds of bombing campaigns are only conducted... Hold on. These kinds of bombing campaigns are conducted. It's not tit for tat. It never was tit for tat to begin with, but although Israel is responsible for 80% of the entire bombing between northern Israel and southern Lebanon, Israel has obviously been overwhelming in its bombing campaigns, okay? Since October 7, this is different. This is, in intensity and frequency, this is more similar to what they did in Gaza. First, they destroy as many aspects of civil society as possible. They try to kill a shit ton of people. They do these first strikes, and then they move in with ground troops. Lebanon is not Gaza, though. I know, but Lebanon in many ways is Gaza. Okay, when they're talking about Dahiyya, you have to understand what Israel is doing in Gaza is called the Dahiyya Doctrine. Okay, a doctrine of blowing up with disproportional use of force all matters of civil society in an area that you're occupying was originally implemented in Lebanon. Okay? And also, whoever the fuck Israel is fighting against is all of a sudden Hamas. You have to understand that. It's Hezbollah, it's Hamas, and they're anti-Semitic, and they're only operating on the basis of anti-Semitism. They're just doing Jew hatred. That's what it is. And every single person is a civilian shield. Is all the human casualties that are involved in this are just unfortunate consequences, even though it is the direct military objective. Okay, for Israel, it is the direct military objective is to just wipe out entire fucking segments of society. And then once they feel comfortable enough, they bring their fucking spoiled ass troops with the Merkava tanks and roll them through the fucking streets. That is what it is. And that is what's going on here. Now, of course, there's a difference between Hamas and Hezbollah. Hamas is in an area that Israel is the belligerent occupier of. They have many limitations in terms of collaboration from the outside resistance, the axis of resistance against Western imperialism in the region. They have a hard time maintaining supplies. They have a hard time training. In terms of Hezbollah, which is a standing military that has operated in the region and has a shit ton of experience in terms of combat. Okay? And their funding mechanism and their logistics are significantly better in terms of what they can get from Iran. And their military hardware is significantly better than Hamas. Hamas does not have the same level of fucking rocket strikes rocket and targeting capabilities that Hezbollah has. And considering how hard of a time Israel has had with Hamas, an ascetic force, an ascetic resistance force that was created inside of a fucking complete closed circuit that was maintained and mass surveilled by the Israeli government. If they're having a hard time with like 17, 18-year-olds and fucking flip-flops wearing busted ass Adidas, rolling up to their fucking tanks and just lobbing a grenade on their fucking $30 million Merkavas, they're going to have a much fucking harder time with a military force that is an actual standing military force that has significantly better capabilities, that has actually stopped Israel's incursion in the past. Do you understand? So that is, I think, the reason why they did a lot of the military stuff that they did beforehand. The pager attacks, like I said, were supposed to happen while the incursion was occurring, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of smarter people than myself, including people who don't agree with me in terms of like Israel being a parasitic force in the region, a truly awful force of the evil in the fucking region and death and destruction in the region. So, for that reason, I'm pretty certain that like I even people who don't consider Israel to be cancerous also have made that same exact analysis that like the terror attacks on the pagers, the pager explosion attacks, like this coordinated terror attack in Lebanon came too early. It did not make opportunistic sense. And they probably did that because they were getting desperate, and it should have happened most likely like either now or when they actually were going to bring in boots on the ground into Lebanon. Anyway, this shit's going to stop until the U.S. are actively sending troops for Israel's defense. This shit's not going to stop until the U.S. are actively... No, it's not going to stop after that either. That's the problem. I think we are bouldering towards another major conflict in this region. It has already started, and I think that the United States of America is going to actively go into war. That is what I am seeing. I hope it doesn't happen, but it feels like it. It feels like it is going to happen. And it's kind of crazy to consider this because if you were in here months ago, I fucking said exactly this. I told you Benjamin Netanyahu is personally motivated in continuing the genocide in Gaza and even extending that into Lebanon in an effort to draw in American troops in support of Israel's genocide. I told you this, and I told you that this would be the spoiler role that he would play in the American election. Haaretz came out with a report. Benjamin Netanyahu said yesterday that he will not do another ceasefire negotiation until, in the next 45 days. Now, you might be wondering what will happen in the next 45 fucking days. What's happening in the next 45 days? That's a very specific number. The American elections. Benjamin Netanyahu, for his own personal goals, because he wants to avoid going to fucking prison, and also because he knows that Donald Trump is his guy, is saying he's not going to do anything until there is another president. I told you this. I told you this for months, and people did not listen to me because what the fuck do I know? And he's doing it. I don't even know if you can consider this to be an October surprise. I mean, I've tweeted about this many times over as well. I'm sure you can pull this up. I don't even know if you can call it an October surprise if it's not a surprise at all. If Benjamin Netanyahu has telegraphed that he was going to do this and that leaving this on the table, it was an unimaginably fucked up situation for the Democratic Party, even in terms of like the electoral calculation that you're making. It is not a fucking October surprise if Benjamin Netanyahu straight up is like, yeah, I mean, this is what we're doing. I said it to fucking Ro Khanna. I said it directly to Ro Khanna in the conversation that I had. And obviously, the electoral calculation here is the least significant aspect of this. Okay? Here. Finally arrived at really solid positions overall, with one obvious, glaringly obvious weakness, which is Israel, which is just like standing there waiting to be the October surprise. That is not even a fucking surprise. It's like everybody knows that Benjamin Netanyahu is in the tank for Donald Trump and is getting increasingly more unhinged every single fucking day, and like not trying to put forward like weapons transfers as a condition in an effort to curb Israel back, like in an effort to rein Israel in, is basically just allowing them to run the table.
Yeah. Like their calculus is, if we say like, weapons will never be conditioned, maybe they won't try to fuck us in October. And
the only thing that I mean, this is gonna sound a little nutty. We will speculation alert. Okay. A little tinfoil, but the only thing that will change the trajectory of this in a way that is beneficial to the American State Department interests is if there is, like, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but a 9/11 style attack on U.S. soil conducted by, whether it's a false flag or not, by people that you can point back to and say Iran backed or Hezbollah backed or even fucking Hamas backed, which is even the most laughable. How the fuck would Hamas conduct something like that? When that happens, or if that happens, then you could get Americans to be angry and invested in Israel. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Because anything short of that, right now, 54% of the American public does not want American troops to go and die defending Israel, unless there is a way to draw America into having a personal investment in doing death and destruction in the Middle East once again. Okay? I hope to God that a thing like that does not happen. Okay? I really, really, really hope that it does not happen. But like I said, that would be the only thing that would change the calculation, I would say, almost in favor of the party in charge.
Probably going to do that anyway, I would assume. I don't know if they're...
Anyway. Let's continue.
Respond in a way that will, save their position. But at the same time, they are also under pressure internally from people in Lebanon.
And there's also this stuff too, like Lebanese here. There's so much hate on Hezbollah from the Lebanese people. We just don't want to fight Israel. We just want to live our lives. Like, got it, dude. Yeah, Israel will totally leave you alone if it wasn't for Hezbollah. Yeah, definitely. No, they definitely would, for sure. They famously always do that. That's why they did that before Hezbollah was even a thing. Famously. Notoriously, Hezbollah, the paramilitary group that was, designed after Israel's invasion of Lebanon, actually was Israel doing foresight ahead of time. When they invaded Lebanon, they knew that there would be a Hezbollah-style militant group. That's why they invaded, to stop it dead in its tracks. Yeah. Also, how can you live in the fucking region and be so oblivious to, like, what Israel does where there is no fucking Hamas? Look at the goddamn West Bank. What do you think about how Israel's using Palestinians in Israel like Nazareth as a propaganda? I think it's really gross and really fucked up, especially considering the history of Nazareth, as, HasanAbi heads that have been watching for quite some time know. Famously, Nazareth was the only place that was, like, spared from the ethnic cleansing campaigns directly as a consequence of like a World War II veteran from fucking Canada being like, yeah, I feel like this is a bad look. Yeah, we probably shouldn't fucking do an ethnic cleansing to the people that are like direct descendants of Jesus, okay? It will probably piss off a lot of people in the Western world. We might as well not do that until you give me like in writing. Until you want to put your name on this ethnic cleansing operation, I'm probably not going to do that. And then he didn't do it. He literally didn't do it. And that's the only reason why they spared Nazareth, which has like the highest number of Palestinian citizens of Israel inside of the boundaries of Israel, which is really interesting because I think it was, what the fuck was his name? God damn it. The first prime minister, Ben Gurion, when he visited Nazareth, he was like, why the fuck are there so many Arabs here? He was like, what the fuck? What happened? I thought we worked this out. Like, I thought we personally worked this shit out. Why are there so many goddamn Arabs here? He was like shocked personally.
On whether supporters of Hezbollah who've paid the high price since this war started, or by the ordinary Lebanese, that no one ever wants this country to be dragged into a full-fledged war.
That said, how concerning is this latest escalation, this sort of back and forth for the broader situation in the region?
Well, this region has been going into this tension for a long time, but this recent war in Gaza have made regional and border countries are on edge. We've had, the Yemenis involved, the Iraqis involved, the Iranians threatening. We've had assassinations even in Iran happening. Of course, Syria is also in the calculation, where constant bombardment and airstrikes targeting also Hezbollah figures inside Syria. But Lebanon is the country that is more, fragile and more, at a hostile situation, given the proximity and of the border and the tension with the Israelis, and given that Hezbollah's stronghold is here in Lebanon. This is their fertile land, basically, for their commandments. But this is...
Yeah, his name was Ben Dunkelman, the Canadian World War II veteran. Why Israel has silenced his 1948 story of Nazareth's survival. We've covered it before. I've talked about this extensively, but here's a Mondo Wise article about that, where they were just like, yeah, dude, that's fucking crazy. Maybe we shouldn't like ethnically cleanse the fucking Palestinian Christians population. There was like much higher at the time too. Like, this will probably piss off a lot of the people in the West. Like, maybe we shouldn't do that to like, direct descendants of Jesus. Do you support Israel? Are you fucking nuts, dude? Are you out of your fucking mind? What are you talking about? No, I do not support Israel. Even the New York Times photojournalist is laughing at how stupid your question was. She's snorting. You made her snort. Jesus Christ, dude. This goes to show I could be saying anything. Motherfuckers are just like, I feel like they're not paying attention to any goddamn thing I'm saying. You know what I mean? They're just like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Is what is putting Lebanon on the brink of a war, and really the days to come, maybe the hours to come, will be decisive in the fate of this country.
Lina Sinjab, thank you.
Pentagon has announced the U.S. is sending additional...
The mass displacement looks exactly like 2006, but this time no cheering for the resistance. This time only fear and helplessness. People are tired, broken, depressed. This is bullshit. The number of people I've seen offering rooms or flats for people evacuating from the south, the number of supportive visits, and this post underplays the pushback against Hezbollah in 2006, which then turned to full support as Israel's atrocities grew. IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi has chosen a name for the military's offensive operation against Hezbollah in Lebanon, Arrows of the North. Nice, man. Thank God. Real villain shit, dude. They're on their villain era. All right, I got to pee real quick.
Troops to the Middle East as the fighting escalates between Israel and Hezbollah. More than 40,000 US personnel are already in the area. Well, for more on this, we're going to get the latest from our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, who joins us now. Kimberly, do we have any idea how many and what sort of troops the US is planning on sending?
Yeah, well, as you point out, there are already 40,000 in the region. But in terms of what that small number of additional forces is, the Pentagon still isn't saying. Now, Major General Pat Ryder, the Pentagon spokesperson, also did not specify when making this announcement what exactly these troops would be doing. So there are a lot of questions with regard to this statement that has been put out by the Pentagon. All that is known at this hour is that the troops are being sent out of an abundance of caution to augment the forces already in the region. Now, I can also tell you, in the midst of all of this, the U.S. President Joe Biden has just met with the president of UAE. And what he has been saying in just the last hour or so is that he is going to be discussing the escalating situation, not only in Lebanon, but also what has been happening in Gaza. What we know is that they are going to discuss efforts to try and de-escalate the tensions, which are obviously escalating on multiple fronts. And he also says that he has been briefed on the situation and is in constant contact with counterparts in order to get the very latest information. The goal of the United States, as they've said repeatedly for at least a week or more, has been to try and resolve not only the situation, Israel's war in Gaza, but now this new front that is opening up towards Lebanon with diplomacy.
Kimberly Halkett, thank you so much as always. That is our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news.
My next guest knows the ins and outs of Lebanese affairs. He wrote recently, and I quote, "There is much talk of Israel wanting an all-out war in Lebanon. In fact, what we are seeing today was long expected for when Israel redeployed its troops to the north. We are in an escalation to the effect the outcome of negotiations not to provoke an all-out war." Marco Young is a former columnist and opinion editor at the Daily Star newspaper in Lebanon. He's now a senior editor for the Carnegie Endowment's Middle East Center in Beirut, and he joins us now live. It's good to have you, sir. And I just, if you will, just further explain the conceit of your argument here. What you see is what is, you say, ultimately expected by Israel at this point. You do not expect an all-out war, which would obviously mean, you know, a ground incursion by the Israelis. What evidence do you have?
One of the funniest parts about this dude is that he's in Lebanon. I think he's in Beirut, if this is the same guy I'm thinking of. And he's like, he's been like, you know, obviously pro-Israel when doing his coverage, but it's hilarious when you're literally standing underneath, you know, Israeli F-15s, and your analysis changes in real time. I've watched him literally like talk about the fucking terror attack in Lebanon with the pagers, while Israeli fucking jet fighters, or no, when Hassan Nasrallah was delivering his speech, he was like scared shitless because he heard the supersonic booms when he was standing underneath the you know, Israeli Air Force. I think it almost personalizes the aspect when you are treated like a fucking you know, Hamas militant all of a sudden, or a Hezbollah militant all of a sudden. It really changes the dynamic, because, you know, they don't give a fuck about you because you're right there. Okay? It's like funny to think about how someone's analysis might change in real time. Oh, this is a Lebanese journalist that got that literally got bombed during a live broadcast. Yeah, that's what it looks like on the other side, for the record. That's what it looks like when you're, you know, when you're in the way of Israel. Yeah. Yeah, Michael Young, at Beirut Calling. Senior editor of the Carnegie Middle East Center, author of The Ghosts of Martyrs Square, an eyewitness account of Lebanon's life struggles. When Israel said it's warned people to move away from Hezbollah's weapon stores, it takes an idiot to believe this is done in good faith. This is not information Hezbollah shares with residents, so basically they're killing innocents. Surprised? Question mark. Is this him? Is this his account? Is it Michael Young?
What are you basing that conjecture on?
Well, I'm basing it on my reading of the fact that the Israelis don't feel that they need to engage in a ground war. They've been escalating in the last 2 weeks significantly.
Oh wait, this is not him. This is a different person. Never mind. This is a different person. This is a different person. I don't think this is the person I was thinking of. There's another like a CNN international guy. I think it's a different guy. He kind of looks like him though, like kind of schlubby. He was the one who I watched when he was like in real time change his attitude about like being perceived as an enemy combatant, you know, the unfortunate consequence of like being under you know, Israeli bombing. Isn't it? Is that him?
Their attacks against Hezbollah, beginning with the pager explosions and the walkie-talkie explosions, ending with.
Yeah, this is who I'm. Yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy.
The Israeli airplane overhead. Okay, Eleni, there's an Israeli fighter jet flying, dropping flares. Just now, as Hassan Nasrallah is speaking, didn't break the sound barrier, dropping more flares again, flying right north of Beirut, flew right over the city.
Like, I don't know why he feels, you probably shouldn't feel safe. You know, it don't matter how pro-Israel you might be at any given moment, you know?
Okay, so obviously the timing of that overflight was no mistake or coincidence. Clearly the Israelis wanted to distract the many viewers of Nasrallah here in Beirut and in Lebanon as he makes that speech. But what we heard Hassan Nasrallah say was that Israel has crossed all red lines with the.
For the record, I want to point something out here, but he is far from the worst in terms of like the international correspondence that people have. He literally is like significantly better than the average international correspondent in terms of like their seemingly endless amounts of defense for whatever Israel's actions are. And even then, like I've heard him talk about these matters from the perspective of like being, he's not pro-Israel. He's a very fair man. There is no such position, okay, in Western media. I very, very, very little coverage on that front. Come on. I mean, you're saying that because you're rating on a scale here. You're only saying that because like he's closer to both sidesing the situation, which implies that there is like a moral playing field, which implies that there is like a little bit of humanity into the way that that he offers coverage to like enemies of Israel.
Attacks, the pager blasts and the walkie-talkie blasts yesterday in Lebanon. He said that in a sense, Hezbollah and Lebanon got off lucky because he said that the intention was to kill as many as 4,000 people with these blasts. Clearly, the death toll, according to the Ministry of Health, was 37. That was 12 on Monday.
Anyway, Israel's trying to convince us Palestinian Arabs in Israel that Hezbollah wants to target us like they did in 2006 when all their military bases are literally around our towns. Yeah. Didn't Biden say you're on your own if Israel goes into Lebanon, or did I hallucinate that? Biden said a lot of shit. Biden has said a lot of shit. He doesn't know where the fuck he is. So for him, it's like, it doesn't really matter. Who cares what the fuck he says, bro? He also said red line is Rafah. Remember Biden's red line in Rafah? He was like, don't go into Rafah. That's my red line. Yeah, this is what the Tyre district in Lebanon looks like in the aftermath of this special operation that Israel conducted. Cool stuff. Wonderful. They've eliminated the threat of grandmothers and children living in residential blocks.
With the assassination of Brahim Ha'il and several commanders of the Radwan force. Now what they've done is they've responded to Hezbollah's effort to match what the Israelis did last week. Yesterday, Hezbollah bombed several parts of northern Israel to try to create essentially a displacement of the population. So today the Israelis have come back and said, if you want to play this game, we will displace a large part of the population of southern Lebanon. It's a very nasty game, and the Israelis are actually targeting civilian areas. But this is where we are, unfortunately. And in other words,
80,000 automated calls to subscribers of the Lebanese.
I just want to ask another question here. Israel has the population registry of all Palestinians. That's what you do when you're a belligerent occupier. You have the mass surveillance mechanism, and you know exactly the zip code and down to the fucking apartment number where each Palestinian lives. How the fuck does Israel get to do robocalls in fucking Lebanon? It seems like they are able to do the robocalls in Gaza, but source on that? What do you mean source on that? This is basic elementary level knowledge of Israel's targeting capabilities. Israel does mass surveillance 24/7 on the Gaza Strip and has the population registry of every single Palestinian. That's like 100%. That's not like, I don't know what to tell you about this. But what's shocking to me is that they were able to do this with Lebanese telecoms networks as well. Yeah, Palestinian births are registered in Israel's database. Like they have everything. This is so made up, Lamafeo. Wait, what? What is made up? I'm confused as to what you are saying is made up here. That Israel has the Palestinian registry and knows exactly where every single Palestinian lives in the Gaza Strip, or the fact that they sent like mass text blasts and were able to communicate with like Lebanese people living in fucking Lebanon in the same way that they do like these mass blasts before they do a bombing campaign in Gaza. This, by the way, this for the record is like how they claim that they're the most moral military. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh yeah, we're doing it. When in fact, they're not actually interested in like getting people to leave that area. They just want to do terrorism. Like this is psychological warfare. To be like, dropping leaflets before you blow up an area doesn't make your fucking blowing up of the area more moral. Like if Osama bin Laden was like, I'm going to strike the Twin Towers before fucking 9/11 and then did it, do you think that would be considered appropriate? Of course not. Yeah, the Israeli government site that details this process here. Like, it's their own government population registry. There it is. This is COJAT, Coordination of Government Activities in the Territories. Okay? COJAT is responsible for... COJAT is the department within the Israeli government that deals with Palestinians, like as the belligerent occupier. Okay? The Population Registry Office is responsible for updating and archiving the Palestinian population registry held by Israel in coordination with the Palestinian Authority in the Gaza Strip and Judea and Samaria, which is also known as the fucking West Bank. Why do they have the population registry of all Palestinians in territories if they are not occupying said territories is a question that you might ask yourself. I certainly think about that all the time. I mean, there's a very obvious answer for it. It's because they are the belligerent occupiers. They're an occupying force on the occupied Palestinian territories illegally. Anyway, I'm going to run another ad break here, okay? At the top of the hour, 11 minutes in, and we're going to move on. They don't hide it, but conditioning allows people to go along with it. Here it is. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do, like I've said before, is subscribe for $4.20 in the month of September or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get one free Prime subscription a month, or by getting gifted a sub. If you're lucky, here's a 3-minute ad break now. The evacuation orders help with whitewashing in the media? Yeah. Is in the media communicated forever in the post 9/11 world as like warranted death and destruction, a necessary side effect of trying to deal with terror. You just don't get, you literally cannot comprehend how fucking insane this is if you are living in Lebanon, if you're living in Gaza, but especially if you're living in Lebanon. You're like living your goddamn life. You're going to school, okay? And then all of a sudden your school blew up. Why? Because Israel chose to do so and then claimed that Hezbollah is in your school. Think about that. Think about how fucking insane that is. Try to understand it. Try to empathize with these people that now have to live under the oppressive thumb of this genocidal apartheid regime that has now chosen to expand the conflict into Lebanon. I haven't covered the Al Jazeera raid yet because, Israel's doing new shit on a daily fucking basis, seemingly hour after hour. So we haven't even gotten to that.
Telecoms company today, Israel urging people to evacuate their homes in the south and in the Bekaa Valley. The psychological effects here must be very, very tough. I mean, you are yourself in Lebanon, not necessarily, as I understand it, in Beirut. Can you just describe the impact on the Lebanese population of what is going on at present?
Yeah, of course. This war is very much a psychological war on both sides. And by essentially using some of these automated calls, for example, to warn ministries that they would be bombed, and the ministries are located in the very center of Beirut, they're trying to create a panic amongst the Lebanese population. And we're seeing the same thing in the Bekaa Valley now and in other parts of the south. Essentially what they're doing is they're hitting all over. And I'm very skeptical that this is just to hit Hezbollah targets. There's been plenty of footage today showing the Israelis hitting civilian quarters near Tyre, for example. They are essentially creating a humanitarian problem and saying to Hezbollah, you will have to resolve this problem. That's all they're doing.
It's so funny to just like have Western media basically describe terrorism without using the term, because that term is a political term that is applied only to the enemies of the American state or the Israeli state, enemies of ourselves and our allies. Like, what this person described right here is just straight up what terrorism is designed to do. Okay? The issue is when Israel does it, it is not considered terrorism. Okay? No, you don't get it, Hasan. It's psychological warfare intended to spread fear among the population is not terrorism. Exactly. It like using the dictionary definition of terrorism while simultaneously avoiding the term is kind of funny. it'd be funny if it wasn't so damning and so obvious in its application here.
And it's very cruel.
While you and I have been talking...
Once again, if you want to predict what's going on in the future, one thing you can always do is look to the past, and you don't even look to, like, you can look into the immediate past, the past year of Israel's actions in Gaza to understand exactly what the fuck they're doing. Which is, you know, someone in the chat joked and said, oh, when will we start hearing like Hezbollah run health ministry? You will hear it. You will hear it soon. And you don't have to have the gift of foresight bestowed upon you by Apollo or some shit to know that, because that is just how we operate, okay? That's it. And you can see it as like a trial balloon, right? What Israel did in Gaza and the way that the Western world reacted to it, or rather the lack of reaction and the lack of accountability, basically taught them the lesson that they wanted to fucking learn, which is, oh, we can do whatever the fuck we want and get away with it. They're not going to do shit about it. Okay? And that's precisely where we are. Who created the word, though? What do you mean? I mean, I don't know what like the original application of the word terror was. I don't know the etymology of it, but I suspect it was probably Western powers at a certain point. That doesn't really matter, though, because we're talking about the contemporary application of the term terrorism, which is specifically specifically utilized against non-state actors who are against the American state and against the Western superpowers in the world. It was after Napoleon Bonaparte almost got assassinated. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what the historical usage of the term is. What matters right now is the designation and what that designation does. That designation plays a very formative role in the way that the broader society looks at the people who are quote unquote terrorists. That designation also has a lack of legal standards in terms of how you can treat these enemy combatants. They are no longer standard enemy combatants. The rules of war do not apply to said enemy combatants. They are now considered terrorists, as in enemy combatants that you can deny habeas corpus laws to, that you can officially deny normal human rights to. You can torture them. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Capri Sun Poppy, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream.
Lebanon's health ministry has just announced 274 now killed in the Israeli strikes on Lebanon. We had been quoting a number of 180 up until this point, so the numbers increasing. Sadly, these are deadly strikes. The Israelis' argument is that they are striking Hezbollah buildings, storing weapons amongst civilians. And they will suggest that some of the videos that are being seen of their strikes show secondary explosions, indicating that missiles are...
Classic. Oh my God. Again, classic. Well, but there were secondary explosions. Like, obviously, they were actually striking missile depots, right? I mean, it's classic. Secondary explosions. Remember, secondary explosions. They did this with Gaza as well. Okay? They did this with Gaza as well. Yeah, make no mistake. There's no way that it could be a gas line. There's no way that it could be near, I don't know, a fire that catches a bombing campaign that ends up causing secondary explosions as a direct consequence of like hitting, I don't know, like a gas station or anything like that. They did this, literally, they did this with a fucking tent city in Rafah, if you recall. Secondary explosions, I mean, maybe there was a weapons depot right there. Once again, it is always the same attitude. And it's wild that, like, CNN is still reporting on it in the same way.
Stored underneath residential buildings. What do you make of the very targeted warnings from the Israelis and their argument as to why they are attacking Lebanon at present?
Well, I mean, they have. I've seen that footage. It's true. They have hit what looks to be arms storage facilities. But honestly, we have to move beyond this. This is, as I said, this is a war. This is to reach a political objective. The Israelis, of course, have killed nearly 300 people, but they want a political objective here. It's to force Hezbollah to retreat from the border north of the Litani River. And in order to do so, as I said, they want to create a humanitarian problem for the party, and particularly for the Shia community. So, I mean, I would take with a grain of salt. Not everything they've hit today was Hezbollah arms depot. And the fact of the matter is, most citizens, when they tell them to leave an area, if you live near an arms depot, leave this area. Well, most Lebanese don't know that they're sitting next to an arms depot, or even if there is an arms depot in their neighborhood, of course. So there is an element of psychological warfare here. They want to.
Oh, dude, yeah. It's just the arms depot, dude. They're all over. That's just what it is, dude. That's why it's allowed to do so. You're allowed to do so. Make no mistake, okay? Territory struck in northern Israel that are direct military targets by Hezbollah, that's terrorism. That is done specifically to get everyone in northern Israel to leave northern Israel, evacuate to the nearest bomb shelter, or just like leave northern Israel altogether. Okay? But if it happens in Lebanon with zero indication that this is actually a fucking military base or anything like that, then that is not an act of terror. They're just engaging in a defensive posture, while also simultaneously trying to do psychological warfare on the civilian population, which, make no mistake, is not terror when Israel does it. Okay?
Panic. They want to create panic.
By the way, if you want to, I guess, see the laughable defenses that they have engaged in for these actions, they're doing the exact same. They're doing the exact same shit that they did. Okay? Warning, Israel's in the process of doing a deception campaign in order to justify bombing the homes of southern Lebanon. They're dropping illumination flares and bombing homes with small ammunition multiple times to make it look like weapons depots exploding. This video shows clearly the small bombs dropping from the sky to simulate the explosions with the flare. I don't know the veracity of this. I don't know the veracity of like this video. I don't know if it's like directly from this incursion or if it's from another one, but it is way too streamlined. That's an ammo depot? No, it's not. No, the fuck is not, brother. What are you talking about? It sounds, first of all, the secondary explosions, I mean, look, I'm not an expert on this at all, but the secondary explosions are never that consistent. But we're not going to engage in like Twitter video OSINT Andy shit, okay? I don't know. Maybe it is an arms depot. It still doesn't justify Israel's bombing campaign. HasanAbi is an expert again. Oh, here we go. HasanAbi is an expert again. I mean, okay, let me ask you something before you cynically refuse to hear what I'm saying, okay? In terms of me being like, I'm not an expert. It looks a little weird, but who knows? Before you listen to those words, because you failed to comprehend that and immediately went with a cynical, oh, here we go again. HasanAbi's an expert again. I'm sure you're going to turn around and do like the, remember the JDAM shit? Okay. Yep. There it is. HasanAbi's only an expert in JDAMs. Have you like even remotely accounted for all of the genocide defense that your spiritual, intellectual debate daddy has presented over the course of the past 12 months at this point? Like, has there ever been a moment where you're like, man, we got a lot of things wrong? Don't associate me with them fools. Okay, well then don't behave like one of them fools. Because it's so crazy to be like, to still talk about like Al Ahly, which by the way is still, we do not have full-blown confirmation on Al Ahly, but it's regardless of what has happened in Al Ahly, it is crazy because they lied about Al Shifa, they lied about Al Ahly, they lied about every fucking hospital that they blew up. Okay, for 12 months. Like there was never there. I have been so consistent and so correct, and the people that still try to hold on to like this notion that I was like wrong, haha, we got him, have just weirdly stopped talking about these things, and they only rear their head. They only rear their ugly little heads anytime they think they can catch like a good one. Like slip that in. It's interesting. Latest health ministry numbers are 492 dead, 1,645 injured. What you lie, tunnel under Shifa is not enough. What? Keep watch. Like, as Israel is doing a genocide in Gaza with more than 40,000 dead, majority women, children, and the elderly, 14 pages alone in terms of the casualties is under the age of 1, right? 14 pages worth of under the age of 1, like babies that were killed, ruthlessly slaughtered. Okay? As Israel then turns its crosshairs onto another sovereign nation that happens to be another sovereign nation that happens to be to have the misfortune of being neighbored with Israel, and Israel is like viciously blowing them up and lying every step of the way in the exact same way that they have lied about Gaza. Okay, you still turn around and go, remember Al Ahly? Come on, you're not a serious person. You're not. Wait till we get to, this was a Hezbollah rocket that misfired. It'll happen, you know?
In the community and make people in Lebanon, but particularly supporters of Hezbollah, they want to create an element of panic, and they want them to leave the south. And indeed, many have left the south today and have streamed into other parts of Lebanon.
And we've seen the images of thousands of people on the move. As we have seen similar images of people, of course, on the move for, what is it, nearly a year in Gaza. And I hear many people talking about the Gazification of Lebanon at this point. You have suggested just in this interview that the strategy, as you say, is to create this sort of humanitarian sort of situation in Lebanon as well. Just how far do the Israelis go at this point? There are, from some in government, talk of rewriting the very lines of Lebanon as a country, rewriting the borders. I mean, how far does this go, sir?
Well, I mean, at this stage in time, there doesn't seem to be an effort to redraw Lebanon's borders. On the contrary, I mean, my suspicion is that the Israelis want to avoid a land incursion into Lebanon. They're trying to get the message to Hezbollah, it seems, that
do they? I don't. It doesn't seem like it.
They can escalate short of an invasion, because they know that an invasion would actually lead to all-out war, in which Hezbollah would probably bring in its larger precision missiles. At this point, however, what they seem to be doing is they're offering Hezbollah the following equation.
Guys, everybody understands that a ground invasion incurs a heavy price for the Israeli military. Israel understands this better than anyone else. This has already happened, and they already failed in Lebanon. This is precisely the reason why they're engaging in the same exact bombing campaign that they engaged in fucking Gaza. Okay? That's the point. The point is you literally pummel Lebanon as hard as you can so then your fucking cowardly troops can storm and kill the rest of whoever the fuck they want to kill in the area. Anyway, yeah, they don't send in the diaper squad until they've like completely destroyed the land. Okay, the diaper brigade only comes in after they feel comfortable that they won't get attacked from the buildings. When there are no buildings that are left that are sustainable, that every building has become a death trap, basically. Only then does the diaper brigade roll in with their fucking tanks. Why do you make it sound like a ground invasion into a built-up area is easy? That's suicidal. It's never easy. That is precisely the reason why they haven't even been able to fucking like destroy Hamas militarily. Besides, like, obviously Hamas being an idea and a form of resistance and not like simply a standing military force that you can eviscerate. Okay? It is difficult. It is, if not damn near impossible. Hey, Hasan, I'm Lebanese. If Harris would be better at foreign policy than Trump, I hope, would Harris deal with Israel in a tougher way than Biden? I mean, she has the capacity as vice president and also currently the presidential candidate to deal with Israel in a tougher way than Biden, but she's not. And if I could predict this happening, right? And I don't even think this was like a crazy prediction because I've been saying for months now, literally 4 months, what Israel is doing. Now, I've said 4 months Israel would inevitably do. And if I could see it, I'm sure they can as well.
If you want to escalate and lead to all-out war, then it's your responsibility, and the backlash will be against you in Lebanon. But if you don't want to escalate and start hitting Israeli cities and infrastructure using your large missiles, then you're going to have to accept that we will continue to escalate until you accept our conditions on the border. This is the dilemma that they're trying to create for Hezbollah.
I'm sure every Western media outlet has been screaming about Israel's orders of closure of the Al Jazeera office in Ramallah, by the way. You are insane if you think she's going to speak about Israel differently than the current president. Yeah, I mean, she's not, and I didn't say that she is. I never said that she is. I tried to make an argument over and over again that it is opportunistic of her to do so, and yet, despite all evidence showcasing that her basically stating a different position than Biden would be beneficial for her, she has refused to do so because she is cowardly. Yeah, they're forcing them closed for 45 days. I wonder why. I wonder why Benjamin Netanyahu also said he won't do a ceasefire for 45 days. And I wonder why they said that they're closing Al Jazeera in Ramallah for 45 days, which is in the West Bank, by the way. Not an apartheid. It's simply a military occupation. You don't understand. Must be a fucking coincidence that we are 45 days out from the upcoming American election. Interesting stuff. Also, this is what the police are doing to the Orthodox Jews in Israel, protesting the mobilization and Netanyahu's war this evening, but that happens all the time. You know, I mean, guys, this is the most moral democracy in the world. Come on. Come on now. Best democracy, safest place for Jews. Straight up. I mean, Biden said it. Biden said it himself. If Israel didn't exist, there would be not a single safe space for Jews around the planet. Saying that as the American president is, of course, more of a threat than anything else. But doors open. Doors open. No, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can potentially do that. All right, 1 second. I think I have to sign it. Oh, here's also what Israel.
אשר מסתירים טיל שיוט בבית אזרחי לגמרי. בו הם מייצרים פתח מיוחד, יהודי, לשיגור הטיל. ממנו הם מבצעים שיגור של הטיל לעבר שטח מדינת ישראל. כאן ניתן לראות כיצד זיהינו את המחבלים, פותחים את הפתח היהודי במבנה וחושפים את הטיל. אנחנו זיהינו זאת מהאוויר, ובהתאם לכך ביצענו תקיפה ממוקדת, חיסלנו את המחבלים, ומשם תקפנו באופן מדויק את המבנה ואת הטיל.
IDF spokesman revealed Hezbollah tried to launch a cruise missile from a house in Lebanon. There's also the they got the red circles out. Boys, they got the red circles out. You can never it's over. It's over. They got the red circles, they got the fucking they also have the CGI. Where is the I'm sure you've seen the fucking CGI videos as well that they did with the Al-Shifa hospital. Remember there was a Hamas headquarters? There was a Hamas headquarters under Al-Shifa, and they knew it. Why? There was a command center for Hamas under Al-Shifa. How do we know that? Well, we didn't. They just made it up, and then they made a cool graphic to showcase that. They're doing that as well. They're doing that again. They're doing that again. They got their fucking CGI videos. IDF releases footage of an airstrike against the home in Lebanon where Hezbollah had stored munitions. The video shows a rocket flying out of the building following the strike, hitting an adjacent home. Where is it? I can't tell anything from this. Oh, here. This is what's here. Wait, Nasrallah is developing Hezbollah missiles in the homes of Lebanese citizens, using the civilian population as human shields. Any civilian living near Hezbollah weapons should leave their home. Guys, they have AI. They have AI propaganda again, okay? Here's a real thing that's happening, which is why we turned to DAL E2 to visualize this very common thing that's actually happening. Hassan Nasrallah is doing this all the time in Lebanon, okay? Where is the video, though? Hold on. I got to show you the video that they made. Oh, here.
Hezbollah terrorist organization has been continuously launching attacks on Israeli civilians and has no plans to stop. This is southern Lebanon. There are dozens of Lebanese villages situated along approximately 80 kilometers of the border with Israel. For over 20 years, Hezbollah has deployed its arms inside homes.
Why are they speaking in English when they're talking about this? Why are they explaining this in English? I just don't get it. Is it the official language of Lebanon? Is it the official language in Israel? Why is the Israeli military person explaining this operation in English? I wonder. I just can't seem to place my finger on it. Why are they doing that? Why are they doing it? Hezbollah, Hamas.
And militarized civilian infrastructure. As a result, the Hezbollah terrorist organization has turned southern Lebanon into a battlefield. This is a village in southern Lebanon.
This is what I was going to show you. Beautiful. Perfect. I mean, this is, yeah. I have not seen this one before. I mean, this certainly is new. Where Where else have I seen this? Well, if you say so, in this illegal time, you hate to see it. You hate to see it, dude. We just have to blow up these schools, man. At a certain point, right? Like a repeat is going to probably have like some level of fatigue, right? There's just no way. There is no fucking way that you can continue like listening to the same exact fucking propaganda over and over. Here it is. Yeah. Home to Hamas. Headquarters. This is an IDF 3D diagram of the Shifa hospital. Once again, it's just crazy. It's crazy to me, man. It's crazy to me that they just
living in the village. We are monitoring these activities, locating the weapons, and destroying them with precise intelligence-based strikes. I want to show you an example of a strike.
The first floor, every fucking building in Lebanon is a storefront. We don't have fucking garages, lol. I mean, we do, but like, dude, it's third world. No, Capri Sun Poppy. Your Lebanese Palestinian heritage is showing here. You're obviously trying to defend against the reality that like there are portable missile launcher trucks underneath every school in Lebanon. Okay, everybody knows this. Sorry, sorry. You might act like that's not the case, but I just saw an illustration that proves you wrong. Yeah, a storefront, more like a weapon storefront. Yeah, this is what we just showed, the Hamas headquarters. Yeah. This missile is definitely in a garage in Lebanon. Trust us, guys. Breaking. The images reveal long-range Hezbollah missile being stored inside of a civilian building in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah is deliberately placing its military infrastructure within civilian areas. We promise. It's just so odd. They always happen to, you know what's always the case? They always happen to have evidence right before they fucking end up blowing up a goddamn school or a mosque or whatever. Okay? And then after they blow it up, there's obviously an accounting of the areas that were bombed, and they never seem to find the evidence. And it's so crazy. I don't know if like both Hamas and Hezbollah have these like incredible cleanup teams or something. They end up, get this, like in Al Shifa where there was a command and control center, they somehow were able to secretly cement all of the fucking entrances into the hospital between the tunnel system, and it just seemingly looked like it was out of use. I don't know how they were able to do such a thing. It's just crazy. They must have had like some new kind of cement technology that they invented to literally purposefully seal off an area in real time as the guys were coming in, knowing full well that like the Israeli military was coming in, so they just like were able to cement it and shut it off entirely. You're being so rude. The IDF soldiers worked super hard on that drawing. He even had his tongue sticking out while he did it because he was so concentrated. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. I don't know how they do it, but I guess they spend all their time and effort in putting those things under these storefronts and then like clearing the area once they're bombed. It's just a wild situation.
Living in the village. We are monitoring these activities, locating the weapons, and destroying them with precise intelligence-based strikes. I want to show you an example of a strike carried out a few weeks ago. Here we are exposing Hezbollah's method of hiding a cruise missile inside a home. The terrorists create a designated opening for the missile launch. Here you can see how we identified the terrorist making an opening in the building that exposed the missile. In a precise strike, the IDF eliminated the terrorist and this missile launching infrastructure shortly before the launch. Shortly, the IDF will engage in extensive precise strikes against terror targets which have been embedded widely throughout Lebanon. We ask residents...
Grandma has a cruise missile underneath her bed, dude. That is how it is. It's not a house. It's in the middle of nowhere, no roads. Yeah, I know. Notice how the fucking thing that they're blowing up here doesn't look like the actual thing that they blow up regularly in the middle of a fucking crowded neighborhood. What an interesting standard. Because this real-time footage from what they blew up does not really look like this. So I don't really understand how they got from this, which is what like they are actually blowing up, that kills, hundreds of civilians, now up to 400 at this point. But when they're like, oh yeah, we found a missile depot, it's like no fucking road near it, nothing. Just a random fucking building. We aren't supposed to analyze the video, just deep throat the boot and move on. Are you saying Dumbo's lying to me? Yes, I am.
The IDF eliminated the terrorist and this missile launching infrastructure shortly before the launch. Shortly, the IDF will engage in extensive precise strikes against terror targets which have been embedded widely throughout Lebanon. We ask residents of Lebanese villages to pay attention to the message and warning published by the IDF and heed them. This is an advance warning for your own safety and the safety of your family.
Very good.
We advise civilians from Lebanese villages located in and next to buildings and areas used by Hezbollah for military purpose, such as those used to store weapons, to immediately move out of harm's way for their own safety. I want to repeat, move out of harm's way immediately. Hezbollah is endangering you and your families. On October 8th, the Hezbollah terrorist organization decided to join...
For the record, the reason why they're doing this in English is so that it's propaganda. They do it in Hebrew and they do it in Arabic as well. But the English version of this is obviously for propaganda for the Western world, for a Western audience, to be like, look at how moral we are. Look at how good we are in the way that we're conducting our special military operation. And it's just a repeat of like what they've done so far. You are the target audience. Well, maybe not you in particular, but your parents that watch CNN and get their news and information exclusively from Western media without adding a shred of critical thinking skills into the equation. That is who the target audience is. That's why it's in English. Yeah, for the record, they're striking areas that look more like this. So that's weird, because like, but in their UAV drone strike footage, they just didn't show that. So what's going on there? How'd that happen? Yeah, move out of harm's way, as in move out of Lebanon. Sorry. Some of you are going to die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. Thank you, Israel. Very cool. A couple more points of propaganda that I want to mention. Here it is. The IDF spokesperson, the Arab media, posted this order of forced expulsion targeting Lebanese residents on his Twitter account.
بتتذكري شو في بهيديك الأوضة المسكرة بالشقة يلي استأجرتيها؟ شو قعدتوك تخبي تحت الكنباية؟ بحياة ستي ما كنت بتعرفي؟
I mean, this is like, come on, man. This is insult to injury, dude. This is like they're not even doing a good job with this. Like they're so like they don't give a fuck, dude. No, it's not satire, bro. This is supposed to be an evacuation order for like the Arab population in Lebanon. It seems like they fucking ran out of the editing budget, so they used the PragerU animation team, dude. For those uninitiated, this crap works for the Israeli population due to our incredibly pro-military culture, as well as Daniel himself, which is a very charismatic figure for us due to his confidence when he speaks on anything. You might not think he's charismatic, but it's a fact. Thirst traps exist on him on social media of Daniel Hagari. It doesn't matter how stupid it is, it'll work. That's okay. Okay. I'm saying it. This is a sign of a truly depraved society. Okay. If you look at Rear Admiral General Daniel Hagari, who very confidently pointed to, famously, a fucking calendar, okay, that was written in Arabic and said, see, this is their terror schedule for the terrorists. They have the names of the terrorists here, only to immediately be corrected by people who speak Arabic, okay, who then turned around and said, no, dog, that's just a fucking calendar. Those are the days of the, week. If that guy is seen as a sex icon and a confident individual, Israeli society is truly lost.
إذا يوجد لديك أو لدى جارك أسلحة، غادر المنزل من دون أي أمتعة فورا. اذهبوا إلى الوادي، إلى المسجد، أو إلى المدرسة. هذا نداء أخير. كل من يمتلك سلاحا في منزله أو يخفي سلاحا لحزب الله ليغادر منزله.
Great stuff, man. Thank you. Yeah, go to the nearest mosque or school so we can bomb the mosque or school. And then say you were hiding guns, silah, under said mosque or school. Good stuff. What is this? Oh, Josh Shapiro and Zelensky are visiting the artillery shell plant in Scranton, PA. Shapiro signs shells to be used in the war in Ukraine. I fucking hate Jack Posobiec and all these fucking right-wing dipshits because they're only mad that this is being used against Russia. They don't give a fuck when Israel uses it against Palestinians or in Lebanon. They don't give a single shred of a goddamn fuck. They only are using this as to be like, well, how are they doing this against our big, beautiful Russia? It's still a depraved thing to do, but the difference between me and Jack Posobiec is that I consider that to be abhorrent across the board. Okay? Anyway, here's Naftali Bennett. Many Shiites in Lebanon have a unique revenue stream. In their home, they have a special rocket launcher room. They're paid monthly rent by Hezbollah to host this launcher and be prepared to shoot rockets at Israel communities on demand. I remember as a company commander fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon, I was astonished by this. Who the heck turns their home into a terror base? The IDF is now systematically destroying these death machines. Anyone man who turns in his home into a death launch pad puts his family in severe danger. Only he is responsible for the consequences. Enough is enough. I hate this kind of shit because like so many people run with this. And it's just people don't necessarily look at this as like permission structure being created in real time to kill grandmothers. Okay? Like it's so nutty. Especially when like Israel's been doing this nonstop in fucking Gaza.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon.
In English.
Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. It placed rockets in your living rooms and missiles in your garage. Those rockets and missiles are aimed directly at our cities, directly at our citizens. To defend our people against Hezbollah strikes, we must take out those weapons. Now, starting this morning, the IDF has warned you to get out of harm's way. I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones. Don't let Hezbollah endanger Lebanon. Please, get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to...
Yeah, totally. Remember when they did this in Gaza too? Same exact thing. Come back to your blown up houses that you have rocket stashes inside of. But it doesn't even make sense. It literally does not make sense. Yeah. Please get out of harm's way now. Once our operation is finished, you can come back safely to your homes. It's like, why? First of all, why would you care? If they're throwing rockets out of their homes, then why do you give a shit? You're going to kill them anyway. So what is this like, oh, just leave your homes bullshit? Like, it logically doesn't make sense. It's also funny because he's like saying it in English. Here is the Israel Minister of Diaspora and Combating Anti-Semitism. Lebanon, even though it has a flag and even though it has a political institution, does not meet the definition of a country. Once you got Israeli government officials talking about how you're not really a country, that is the biggest warning flag for you, okay? Abort. Like, that's it. Nobody is a country. Only Israel's a country. America, not a country. Palestine, not a country. Jordan, not a country. Egypt, not a country. You know what is a country? Saudi Arabia and Israel. Wherever these guys are interested in blowing up, magically, it's no longer a country. In the absence of a monopoly on the exercise of power, both internally and externally, Lebanese government is not a sovereign entity. The border area with Lebanon, which is mostly inhabited by a hostile Shiite population, is effectively controlled by the Hezbollah organization, which on October 8th started a war against the state of Israel. The organization, for those of you who forgot, was born with the landing of a Revolutionary Guards officer in the Bekaa at the end of the First Lebanon War. The The first Lebanon war, you say? How did that happen? So Hezbollah predates the Israeli invasion into Lebanon, you say? Yeah, Syria and Iraq, not real countries. Iran, not a country, definitely not a country. The least country, like, not a country. In a broader view, both Syria and Iraq do not... Oh my God, I was joking. He does say it. In a broader view, both Syria and Iraq do not currently meet the definition of a state in light of the fact that different militias, foreign armies, and local military forces control different areas in the aforementioned countries. Yeah. It's only a country, the only country that exists is Israel, and its boundaries as a real country, its territorial boundaries consistently expands. Great stuff, man. Yeah, Yair Lapid has some really stern words for Netanyahu right now. Head of Israeli opposition, Israelis are euphoric. This country's rotten to the core. Assassinations, 1,000 targets a day, damage to strategic assets. This is how Israeli deterrence is returned. Yeah. Chairman of the Gantz state camp. I have the full backing of the government and the security system, including ground entry if that is what is needed. That's the Israeli opposition, by the way. These are the woke guys. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Thank you. Here's what the, not a country. Oh, sorry. Israel is the only country. Here's what they're doing in the West Bank.
وهذا قرار عسكري صادر من قائد المنطقة الوسطى في الجيش الإسرائيلي ويأمرنا بأن نغادر حاليا وبشكل فوري هذا المقر وأن نأخذ أغراضنا الشخصية منه والكاميرات. الجيش يمهلنا 10 دقائق لمغادرة المقر والمكتب ليتم إغلاقه.
في البيان الذي لديك ولي تسمع.
طب ناخذ احنا نروح يا عم نروح ندفع. انت قلت لنا انه بنقدر ولم يسمحوا لنا حتى بأخذ سياراتنا.
كل هاي العده مصادره اعطيني اياها اذا بتسمح.
خلص ناخذها بنبعد.
العده مصادره اذا بتسمح بلا
طب ناخذها احنا بنروح
اذا بتسمح
يا عم نروح ندفع.
انت قلت لنا انه بنقدر نشتغل هون بالكاميرات.
Like how? The thing is, if you're with any Western media outlet, you work with these guys on a daily fucking basis, not the IDF. You have to work with the IDF if you're in Israel. I mean, if you're in Gaza. But these are your fucking colleagues, dude. How are you not going to say that this is completely unacceptable? This is the West Bank, which is occupied Palestinian territory, mind you. Occupied Palestinian territory that Israel illegally occupies. This is a foreign nation's state broadcaster being shut down. They shut it down inside of Israel, and now they're shutting it down in the West Bank. What's next? They're going to shut it down in fucking Lebanon too? Probably. Israel will do whatever the fuck it wants as long as America doesn't say a single damn thing about it. Israel will get away with doing everything, okay? Anything and everything it wants to do. And they're precisely doing that right now.
Transparently vengeance for Al Jazeera's crime of reporting the truth about what Israel is doing in the occupied Palestinian territories.
Well, the offices of Al Jazeera are in Ramallah, and Ramallah is Area A according to Oslo Agreement, which means it is under the Palestinian Authority, security and civil-wise. And the license of the office of Al Jazeera in Ramallah was issued by the Palestinian Authority. So Israel has no right, legally speaking, to close any office in any place in Area A or B. Yet they did it. And that means that Israel has practically eliminated any role or any authority of the Palestinian Authority. And we are back to the situation of full occupation.
this week, as you know, a new front opened in the war in the Middle East, jeopardizing.
Now let's watch this disgusting little monster, John Fetterman. Now we're going to move to the United States of America. If you are personally wondering, like, how this kind of stuff is like seen in the Western world, it is not seen at all. Obviously, if you're watching here, you see it all the time. But the broader media coverage over this, conflict and Israel's expansion into Lebanon, or Israel's like violation of international standards, rarely ever gets the adequate coverage in Western media. That is by design. Didn't Jake Tapper throw down for Fox when Obama revoked or threatened access to the White House? Yeah, but he's a bitch. Oh, last thing from me on Lebanon from BM. Oh, the biggest Telegram news channel, 230K subscribers, says the Nakba of the Lebanese. Good stuff. Please stop shaking the table. Oh, sorry. It's funny because Hezbollah has voluntarily put out a video of their terror base and is in a house in Beirut. Yeah. I mean, they literally have multiple underground bases. Like this was a 4-minute video that we watched that showed like that they released as a deterrence. Please check my history. I sent you the Reddit thread with the bots talking about you. $22K upvotes. Houthis enter a school in Yemen and expel all the students. All they see it as a sin for girls to study. Where is it? I mean, I don't think they have it. Backward savages, Islamophobic nonsense. You were saying there was like thousands of fucking comments. I don't think they have it. I don't think it was like that. There's 5,000 comments on this thread. There's yeah. I mean, this is catnip for Islamophobic pieces of shit. Okay. Oh, I scrolled past it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. All right, here. Here, dude, here. Where was it? I don't think it's as severe as like botted in the way that you claimed it was. I'm gonna be honest. Show this to Hasan Piker. How do I tag Hasan? I mean, that's like a couple fucking weirdos. I don't think they're doing that. Isn't this a group Hasan loves? Remember when he said that's something Luffy would do? Yeah, this is not like botted at all. This is not even remotely botted. This is just like regular old Redditors that have a personal investment. Yeah, there's like a couple fucking comments. It's who cares? Anyway, where were we? All right, let's get to the American coverage on this stuff, starting with John Fetterman.
Ceasefire talks.
Once again, remember that what Israel did, regardless of how much Western media has covered it as like a tactical brilliant strike or whatever the fuck, was an abject act of terror. It was in violation of many laws of war. It was a war crime. It was an act of terror. There is no other way to put it. And it's not simply my assessment of the situation. This is what the Office of Human Rights said. This is what many people who have spent their entire lives prosecuting war crimes have said already. And not only that, but even people like Leon Panetta, okay, former CIA Leon Panetta, okay, former United States Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta have said, okay, hold on, I'm going to start the conversation there. It doesn't matter what like Redditors are saying about it and how much they're celebrating it. Here is former CIA Director Leon Panetta calling Israel's explosive pager operation terrorism in an interview with CBS Today. Now, why is this significant? Is Leon Panetta a fucking woke guy? No, of course not. He's done countless acts of terror. The reason why he is calling it an act of terror is because he understands the fucking implications. Okay? When you got former stooges coming out and saying this is a war crime, this is an act of fucking terror, when they themselves have conducted similar operations, maybe not to this degree, the reason why they're saying that is because they understand the repercussions this will have in commerce, the soft power implications this will have, and the fact that people will move away from consuming like regular civilian products because they're fearful that Israel might infiltrate the logistics of said regular civilian products.
Still exploding pagers and walkie-talkies on the scale that we saw this past week, killing dozens and injuring thousands, including children, some viewed as a deception one step too far. The United Nations labeled the operation a violation of international law, and it's raised some eyebrows here at home, too.
The ability to be able to place an explosive in technology that is very prevalent these days and turn it into a war of terror, really, a war of terror. This is something new.
Is it terrorism?
I don't think there's any question that it's a form of terrorism.
Former Defense Secretary and former Director of the CIA, Leon Panetta, wasted no words in describing what he fears may be the result of letting this particular genie out of the bottle.
Yeah, if there's a motherfucker who knows blowback, it's this dude. Okay? Yeah, woke. Yeah, Mr. Woke himself, former CIA Director Leon Panetta, Mr. fucking woke, dude. He's just being woke. He's a radical Islamist fundamentalist. That's what it is. I think he just like really loves Hezbollah or whatever the fuck losers say online when someone goes, "Hey man, this is an act of terror. What the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah. He must be Hamas. Or maybe he understands that opening up this fucking Pandora's box is going to be devastating in terms of how conflicts play out around the world. You can't consistently assume that like your enemies will never be able to do things to you that you have done to them. Okay? You can't operate under the might is right assumption always, especially when it comes to espionage like this. I think it's very stupid.
This has gone right into the supply chain.
Yeah.
Right into the supply chain. And when you have terror going into the supply chain, it makes people ask the question, what the hell is next?
It sounds like you're genuinely worried.
I am. This is a tactic that has repercussions. And we really don't know what those repercussions are going to be.
At the very least, he's worried Israel's tactical decision has made the prospect of a wider war in the region closer than it's ever been.
The forces of war are largely in control right now of what's going on.
Do you think there should be condemnation for it? Should other nations step in, including us?
I think it's going to be very important for the nations of the world to have a serious discussion about whether or not this isn't an area that everybody has to focus on, because if they don't try to deal with it now.
It's funny because you literally, you have laws set in the books, okay, specifically because of what he is mentioning. Every aspect of regulation is written with the ink of blood, okay, whether it be OSHA or whether it be international standards for how to do war. The reason why we already have this in the rule books and say you can't do that is because people used to do that, okay? And it creates destabilization. That's the reason. You don't have to have the gift of fucking foresight to recognize that opening up this can of worms is devastating for global stability, and it's bad for business. And if your goal is to literally do business, if your goal is to maintain global capitalism, then, you know, you're going to probably look at this and go, hey, this is kind of fucking up the bag a little bit.
Mark my word, it is the battlefield of the future.
Still explode.
Yeah. Great stuff, dude.